Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you about a wonderful chiropractic resource right here in the Silicon Valley. His name is Dr. Bloink and his office is located in Los Gatos, California. I'm going to be sharing with you about my own experiences working with him and some of the reasons that I actually chose him for a chiropractor to begin with. And honestly, he's someone I would recommend you go to, especially if you're pregnant. But whether or not you're pregnant, he's someone that can seriously help with a lot of different physical issues. And if you ever go on his website, I'll put the link to his details and where you can find his contact information in the description for this video. But you can go on there and it explains a variety of different conditions and things that he treats, that he works with. I at least recommend checking him out and consider a visit with him. And I even recommend you trying to have an appointment with him for your newborn. I'll go into some of that in the video, but overall, I'm just going to cover why I picked him and then my experience for what it was that kind of led me to going in there and my experience with his care during the session and everything like that. So I found Dr. Bloink because he's very interesting. He's very unique and different than a lot of other chiropractors. He brings together so many different fields of medicine and study in his own practice. So, he brings in things from dentistry, from orthodontics, from functional neurology and cranial sacral type work. And he kind of brings together the best of all of these worlds. And not only is he really an expert in his field for how he is able to help his patients, but he also is a big researcher. So if you go on his website, you'll be able to see a number of papers that he's published. So he's very active in not just owning his work, but also being able to spread messages about how his work and how this type of therapy is able to benefit people that are in so many different conditions. And so I do say, I suggest you check that out. You guys know I have my PhD in biomedical research, so I have a deep appreciation for others in the world who are out there really practicing and applying the research and spreading the news of their science and their work with more and more people in the field. So just having such a grasp on so many fields was really appealing to me. And also he's got a ton of glowing reviews. So if you ever go check that out, you'll see how many different people who have reported back, and there's so many more who haven't. I'll make sure I add myself to the list of those who have reported on how beneficial he has been so far to me in the future. But he's definitely someone who has demonstrated how much of a difference he's made an impact in such good ways for so many people's lives. And so going into it, I had, this mindset of at least I'm going into someone who seems to have a very good grasp of the field. And the issues I was personally having was I had a lot of issues with pelvic floor tightness. We learned through other therapists and other professionals that there was some issues specifically with my hip on the left side. And also, funnily enough, right before, like the day before my appointment with him, I ended up hurting my shoulder. It felt kind of like pinched nervy. I could barely lift it. It was not great. So I went into the appointment with lots of fun stuff to test his abilities with, to see what is going on. And just to touch on that, for anyone who is pregnant, the whole pelvic floor tightness thing is a really big issue when it comes time for delivery and giving birth, because you want the pelvic floor to be strong but relaxed and able to allow baby to come out in as gentle a way as possible for your body, for you and for baby, to make it so that you don't have as long of a labor and everything else. So it was really, really important to me to get these issues with my hip, my leg addressed. Like I had this really tight muscle that was like tight as a rope, like it was very upset. And so I had very clear stuff that I was presenting with when I went into his office. My first visit with him was very, very thorough. It's an hour long, and he did all sorts of assessments, neurological evaluations, testing, muscle testing. He does kinesiology and all sorts of stuff like that. And in my experience there, even, before I explained what was going on with me, before he even really did the testing, he kind of already figured out what was going on and what was wrong with me. And the testing just kind of confirmed and made it more certain what specific things were going on for me. And in his evaluation, he identified issues that I wasn't even aware of that were wrong. And, in the process of the visit, he started to go through and list out he did head to toe evaluation, things that were going on in my shoulders, my arms, my legs, all the way down to my calves. And what was very interesting was he would go through and say, this is wrong here. And when I go to make this adjustment, or not telling me, but kind of like confirming, I recognize, yeah, my calf really hurts, or this really hurts that I didn't know was hurting. And he would explain as he went along and did adjustments, after I do this, you will not be feeling this pain. And it was true. So it was kind of very reassuring along the way. He would explain exactly what he was doing and what he was addressing with the changes. Now, here's the interesting part, because I've never been to a chiropractor who's been like this before. During the visit, the majority of the adjustments that he made were in my mouth. So like the roof of my mouth, my jaw, and different things in that region. And that's because he studies a lot about the skull, how the skull is formed, and he has a lot of theories and things that are under the basis of, or around the basis and study of malformations, whether they may be minor or major, that occur early in life, like at birth, are actually the basis for many of our problems later in life: the hip pain, the neck pain, the back pain, the instability. And so a lot of what he does is works with the mouth, the jaw, the head. And in making those adjustments and changes, he's able to impact the rest of the body. And in the period of time that he did all of those adjustments, he fixed my shoulder, which I could barely lift up. Like, it was really painful. I was having a hard time turning. By the end of the session, my shoulder pain had significantly gone away. I could move my arm. I could do different things that I couldn't do before. I could turn my head further back than I'd ever been able to turn before. I was able to get so much relief in that hip and inner thigh where I was getting that tightness that was triggering the pelvic floor tightness. And so that muscle finally relaxed. And that was kind of amazing, because I've been fighting that muscle being tight for a good long time now. And it was just triggering so many other issues. And he also identified like a sacroiliac instability in my back, which is actually why I'm wearing this brace right now. My husband and I call this the butt belt. My husband's gone to see him as well. I sent him there actually years ago. And I'm really grateful that he reminded me about him, actually. But this is a belt that helps to stabilize the sacroiliac joint. And it's something, we call it the butt belt because you kind of wrap it around your hips and butt. It's not like a back brace or anything like that. But he was able to identify all of these instabilities and issues where I just didn't even realize that I was having those issues. And then he was able to resolve them, a large majority of them, during the visit. And yes, there are some things that I'm doing for maintenance. Like, I have this belt on for right now. And he also recommended a number of other changes. For example, this is a kicker for a lot of people. My night guard, you think those like upper night guards that you wear to guard your teeth from grinding? It was actually causing significant problems for me. And he demonstrated to me, like, with evidence of, okay, we made all of these adjustments and changes, and your muscles are like stronger. You can actually move certain parts of your body now you weren't able to move a certain way before. And he showed me when I would put the night guard in, how that changed, and certain things became weaker and more symptomatic. And when I would take it out, suddenly it was fine again. And so that's something I just like to bring to people's awareness, because I had no idea how much of an issue my night guard was causing me. So I'm going to be seeing another dentist who's going to give me a lower guard that's more like specialized, so that I don't have that same issue where it was creating more problems than it really was helping me with. I'm not saying you need to throw away your night guard right now, but I do recommend you see Dr. Bloink and maybe get evaluated for if it's causing some issues for you. I think it's causing issues for more people than they realize. I was one of those people. And it wasn't until like he gave me the evidence right in front of me that I couldn't refute or argue that, like, yes, it's creating a problem for me. And that's one of the things, you know, a lot of his work is very evidence-based, not just from his studies and research. It's based on what you're experiencing. Like, he's very clearly indicating what he's doing, how the changes he's doing, or he's making, adjustments he's making are impacting whatever it is that's wrong with you. And with everyone, he takes a different approach. So I have a few sessions that I'm going to be going to continue to see him for maintenance and follow-up. And I don't think, here's what I'll say. The one session alone was incredibly impactful. So I wouldn't say that everything's fixed permanently in one day, but a significant majority of the complaints and issues I had honestly were resolved in that first visit. And I can understand, based on his explanation and understanding of different malformations that probably are happening in my own skull, that it'll take a little more work to get those adjustments and changes to stay put for longer. And also, I'm in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy. I'm getting bigger. So it's gonna, there's a lot of extra stuff that's being put on my system on top of just trying to fix something that's been going on my entire life. So it's understandable to me personally that I need a couple more sessions to be able to get something to stick for longer and to maintain whatever it is that I'm at right now. Now, I want to share a few benefits that were like completely, I mean, not connected, that I wouldn't have pieced it together and made the assumption that these things would have been fixed or benefited. In my experience after that session, the first biggest thing I noticed was I felt about 20 pounds lighter. And I'm not even kidding or exaggerating. I felt 20 pounds lighter. Now, when you're in the 3rd trimester, if you get to feel 20 pounds lighter, that is a blessing. I may not look 20 pounds lighter, which I shouldn't, because I am in my 3rd trimester, but to feel and perceive a body that is 20 pounds lighter is incredible. You get to have way more energy and ability to do things than you did before, which is amazing. Also, that night I noticed, now when you're pregnant, you have to pee a lot, or frequently many people will have that experience. And I was getting up at 8 to 10 times a night to go to the bathroom. And after his work on me, I was able to, I think the first night it was only twice I went to the bathroom, and many nights it's only 2 or 3 times that I get up. And I felt like I was able to sleep more deeply all night long. Even after I would get up to go to the bathroom, I'd come back to bed, I'd go back into a deep sleep, which is huge because I have been dealing with a fair amount of issues with sleep and comfort and everything at night. And it's not to say everything's perfect, but it is so much significantly better. My sleep patterns and I can wake up feeling like I'm more rested instead of feeling just drained or anxious. And that's another one. So I've had some weird bouts with anxiety that are not like typical things to be anxious about. And I won't go into all the details, but let me just say that after the session where he did all the adjustments in my head, I, for whatever reason, stopped dealing with that anxiety. The anxiety and issues and fears I was having went away. I do have a rough idea of what happened because some of what his work was doing was to free up and loosen up my vagus nerve, which, the vagus nerve comes out of the head and into the rest of the body. The vagus nerve is responsible for rest and relaxation, rest and digest, that parasympathetic side of your nervous system. And the vagus nerve, I've been obsessed with the vagus nerve for like years now, because I've always been like, how do I activate it? Because when you activate it, that's when you trigger the rest and digest. And I think that the main reason I've been so obsessed, because I've had so many issues with my own. And so I've been wanting to help everyone else. If you ever come to my classes, you always know I talk about the vagus nerve or the rest and relaxation response. But essentially, because my vagus nerve was probably being compressed or it was not active. It was not being activated the way you typically want it to be activated or accessible. And after the adjustments he made, I think what happened was my vagus nerve finally could fire more properly, so my body could go into that deep restful state. And it really has made an impact on my mental health, my physical health, and my overall well-being, because to be able to walk around third trimester feeling 20 pounds lighter, feeling in nowhere near the amount of pain or discomfort my body was in before, and being able to sleep soundly and not have to pee 1,000 times a night, those are incredible gifts to a person who is pregnant, and honestly to anybody. But like, that was really huge for me. So I personally highly, highly, highly recommend anybody to see him if you are looking for a chiropractor, or if you're dealing with physical stuff, again, pregnant or not. Like, I highly recommend him, because there's just so much benefit that he has such a different approach to chiropractic work. It's not just about the cracking the spine. He did a few adjustments for my upper body and for my neck. So he did do that as well. And he can do all those things, but because he's addressing what I would say is more of the root cause of a lot of issues, which is in the skull, and from, the evidence from his work really supports his theories, because when he does all those adjustments, suddenly the rest of the body seems to be listening and not fighting me as much. And also, I just wanted to touch on the thing about the baby, because I was fascinated getting to talk with him about infants and about, what happens in the early stages. And again, because his theories are about how at birth, literally that beginning of life, that's when so many people's problems start, because of those if you think about it, it's a very traumatic experience for everyone, whether you were, and I'm just going to note this, because whether you were born vaginally or you were born by C-section, and he kind of had a good explanation for the C-section ones, often by the time a person is at the level of needing a C-section, it's because there's other difficulties and baby's been trying to get out and doing different things. And during that process, it's very traumatic, and there can be minor malformations that aren't like an overt diagnosis or something that take place to the baby's skull. To everyone, like, if you've been born, you've been through a traumatic experience of like physical trauma. And so it's not surprising that a lot of people would have some amount of damage or something. And yes, the head goes back to the normal shape and everything, but there are things that are kind of off. And if you take your baby to him, and he recommends, I think it was like somewhere between days 5 and 10, call him in his office though and find out what the appropriate timeline is. But like somewhere around days 5 to 10 or 7 to 10 after birth is when he likes to work with the newborns. And he will actually do adjustments on a newborn baby to help correct anything that might be off. And honestly, like, I'm 100% taking my baby to him because if I can do something at birth that will help them in the long term of the course of their life to not have the same kinds of problems that I've experienced, or that my husband's experienced, or that other people, the back, the hip pain, the different things, if something that I could have him do for like adjustments to prevent that could be done, I'm going to do it, because it's going to be so much better off for my baby later in life. And I wish I had that so that I didn't have these issues. So of course I'm going to do something better for the next generation. And I recommend other people consider doing this as well. And it doesn't have to be if there's something overt. Sometimes you don't necessarily see it. He's very good at assessing things. And with babies, you don't know what they're experiencing. You don't know what's going on. And often there are babies who have like a little bit of a droop on one side, or there's a hip that's a little stuck or tight, or they're colicky, or there's different things going on. And you don't know exactly what it is, but someone like Dr. Bloink is really good at assessing and evaluating and actually addressing and making those changes. And because it's so early in life, in that time frame where things are still soft and malleable, that he's able to make a difference and have those adjustments really take hold for the baby's lifetime, instead of us as adults trying to fight very rigid bones and ligaments and things that are structured now, but all the wrong way. And now we're just in pain. It's like he can actually do something in those first days of life to improve their long-term quality of life and prevent perhaps additional sleepless nights or issues that we don't understand are wrong with our baby, but maybe causing them to be colicky or to be uncomfortable, or to be, maybe there's GI distress, or there's lots of different things that could be going on that could be prevented if their body and their nervous system was more lined up and in a healthy state. So I strongly recommend, for you're pregnant, you're not pregnant, but definitely for your newborn, that you give them that really great opportunity in those early stages of life to be set up for physical success later in life. I think I've shared a lot. So if you ever have questions, put them in the chat, let me know, comments and stuff. I'm more than happy to answer stuff. I just personally can't stop touting him because I've had such a good experience. I am going back for a couple more sessions and I'm really looking forward to it. I've really experienced a ton of benefits so far, and I think that anybody who goes to see him honestly would experience benefit as well. I will leave it there. Take care. Bye-bye.